Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 50th CI Chit Chat. We made it. Pretty exciting deal. We've been doing this for like a whole year now. When we started them, we didn't really know what this was going to become or what we were going to do with it, or maybe we did a couple of them and just tested out and ended it. But we've kept it going, and I'm happy that we have because hopefully the information's been good, and we have a lot more information to continue to share with you all. Exciting things continuing to happen when it comes to CI, which is carbon intensity. We've talked a whole bunch about it. I'm not going to dig into kind of the normal how we start this with, talking about, what is 45Z and the carbon intensity scores and all that. I want to jump right in because I have a very special guest with me here today, Zach Johnson, the Millennial Farmer. Zach, we used to hang out a whole bunch. It's kind of a little reunion for us. I feel like I don't get to hang out with you, dear, like we used to.
Yes.
Been we've just been doing our own deal down in Iowa. You've been chugging along up in Minnesota, but maybe catch us up. How have things been, man? And introduce yourself too. I'm assuming every single person here knows who you are, but maybe there's one person who doesn't know who you are. Maybe introduce yourself to that one person who maybe they don't know what YouTube is or something.
Yeah, things are going well. I guess I'm a sixth generation family farmer in Western Minnesota.
Mm.
Farm with my dad, and we're the dad and I are the only two full-time farmers on the farm here. Sitting in the farmhouse right now, we're raising the next generation here on the farm. Aside from that, I started Millennial Farmer on YouTube a few years ago as a way to try to relate to people about what's going on the family farms here in the outer areas of the United States, people that have become disconnected from farming. My whole goal is to try to connect to them. And actually ended up hosting a podcast for a few years with Mitchell with
Yep.
Minnesota Public Radio, and we had a lot of fun there. Used to do this all the time, do these Zoom meetings. That must have been 2020, 21.
Yeah, what do we
Because
do?
we
Yeah,
were,
we had like, do we end up with three seasons or four?
I don't remember if it was
I
three.
don't remember.
I'm wondering if it was four because we did like two seasons in studio down in the Twin Cities or up in
Yeah,
the Twin Cities for you. And
yeah.
then we did a couple of seasons that were fully by Zoom, just like this. So I sat right in this same spot and we did it just like
Yeah.
this.
I did not sit right in the same spot. I'm sitting in Norfolk, Nebraska here today in a hotel room that I'm on Zoom meetings on straight from right now until 11 o'clock this morning. I'm going to be sitting right here staring at this computer. So I'm going to need some more coffee. But
Yeah, that sounds
uh,
terrible.
it's not going to be super fun. But then going to go to a couple of farmer conferences here later today. So that'll be more fun. But yeah, we used to talk about this stuff all the time, right? And I think, maybe Zach, what's your kind of hot take, right? On some of these folks have been following this journey the whole time. What's your hot take on when we started talking about sustainability in ag, started talking about ag data and all that back in, yeah, what, 2019, 2020 to today? What's your kind of hot take on some of the highlights or things that you've seen change, maybe for the good, maybe for the not so good?
Well, first of all, I'm a long ways from any expert in any of this stuff. I mean, Mitchell's the expert when it comes to this kind of stuff. But from a farmer's standpoint, as somebody that mildly pays attention with this stuff, because I'm waiting to see where it goes,
Yeah.
it seems like now everybody's paying a little bit of attention, and by everybody, I mean not just farmers, but the politicians, the end users, everybody is kind of going, all right, we're going to have to figure this thing out. Let's see where this is going. And we got companies like Continuum out there that are working to make sure that the farmers are going to, get the benefits from that they deserve. Because there's a lot of companies out there that have made it quite obvious. It's almost like they're not even trying to cover it up that they're going to benefit from their own program, and
Yeah.
and they're going to kind of try and keep it a secret as far as to how much. And as long as the farmer gets some pennies and some nickels off of that, they're going to make the farmer feel like, hey, you got your premium here. But if you really pay attention, I think it's important as farmers to try to maintain our own control of that and make sure that we can benefit from that. Not that nobody else should benefit, but let's make sure that farmers are a big part of that discussion, so that when it comes down to it, we are benefiting from it as well.
I call it farmers getting their equitable share, right?
Yes, exactly.
It may not be fair, but equitable share is okay. It's a equitable share amongst the different parties that we can at least all agree on and go forward from there. But I mean, yeah, I suppose, and just you think of just traditional commodity agriculture, the farmer gets couple pennies on the dollar, right? And we usually don't really complain because there's not enough transparency. We don't have enough data to really make a valid argument and attempt to get more of that food dollar. But now with tax credits and it being a fully transparent system, we know exactly what it's worth for each person along the supply chain. And I think that's where it is different here now. But I love the take too, Zach, on yeah, when we started this, it was just farmers, right? And maybe trying to figure out, all right, should I do this thing? Because this one is, $12 an acre, this one's $15 an acre. Should I even do this cover crop at all? Or what is it? Should I do strip till or something like that? It was pretty basic and really just a farmer conversation. I think you're exactly right that now it's the politicians are involved, a lot more of these big like banks and stuff too, big money, investment dollars coming into this space. And I think part of it is being driven by, the sustainable aviation fuel side of things, or just the push for more biofuels and stuff overall. And now with this enabling policy, of course, is what's going to really make that come to fruition. But up there west of you, they're building a sustainable aviation fuel facility over there, and I think it's southeast South Dakota. I don't know that it will pull corn exactly from your area, but it might influence, at least have more outlets for our corn. So I think that's a good thing. The more places that we can go and utilize corn, the better it is for farmers overall, just in a basic supply and demand. But also, if we can produce more of these fuels, liquid fuels, in a more sustainable manner, I think it makes them viable for the long term as well, and makes agriculture less susceptible to things coming in like more electric vehicles and stuff like we're definitely going to have, and that's fine. But sustainable aviation fuel and all that provides a long-term opportunity that I think is pretty exciting to be watching. Have you monitored any of that SAF piece at all? It's kind of new,
Yeah.
but it's definitely part of that trend as well. I think, over the last couple of years, it's really been kind of becoming a hot topic.
Yeah, it's been pretty loose that I've paid a whole lot of attention to it right now because again, it's just like it's so muddy that
Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out exactly where they're going to go with this, but it's
yeah.
is Boeing tied in with that at all, with their big claims on being net zero and stuff?
I
I'd
think
imagine Boeing is pushing pretty hard for that.
Yeah, I think one of the things I saw is that, sustainable aviation fuel today is a drop-in fuel that you can just blend with regular jet fuel. And usually you would blend it at some type of a percentage, right? But I think Boeing, it might have been Boeing or somebody else that was saying that they'll be able to run on 100% sustainable aviation fuel by some arbitrary date in the future, right? So they're definitely, part of it, but really it's a lot of the airlines, right? Like Southwest Airlines, Delta, those kind of guys, they're saying we're going to be carbon neutral by whatever date, or we're going to use so many gallons of this SAF by whatever date. Um, Definitely a push for it, but I think it's kind of the longer term, right? They're
Yeah.
on track to produce like 3 billion gallons of SAF by 2030. And there's actually the plans in place, the different facilities and stuff to be able to get there. Today in the US, we produce like 17 million gallons or something like that. Pretty minimal. It might be a little bit higher this year, but 17 million gallons today to be at 3 billion gallons by 2030. Like that is a pretty aggressive ramp up, but ethanol is 17 billion gallons. So it's still way smaller than the ethanol market, but you start going from 3 billion to their target is to be at 35 billion gallons. You start talking a massive, massive opportunity, tens of billions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
huge.
We'll see. But you were getting at some of monitoring from kind of from the sides, right? And I think that's probably the right thing to do. And we've been just telling farmers, hey, go in and get your score, but know that things are going to change. And maybe let me give a couple updates like I usually do on these. The Biden administration is still saying that they will get the preliminary 45Z rules out by inauguration on January 20th. Now that's on a Monday. So we anticipate maybe they get the rules out on Friday or something like that, right before. And it's going to be skinny guidance where the IRS is going to issue some type of rules about 45Z. Then it'll start the 60-day public comment period. Then Trump's team comes in, they ingest those rules, they take a look at the comments, and then they publish their final rule, hopefully, late next summer or something like that. Now, part of one of the main things we want to hit on here is that the USDA actually submitted their rule for final review at the White House a week ago Friday. So about a week and a half ago. the USDA actually did submit their rules. So it's not just hearsay. It's not just them, making promises of like, oh yeah, we're going to do it by, inauguration. No, they like actually did submit it to the White House and it's in review right now. I don't know how long it's going to take, but Zach, so what my understanding of it, and for everyone else, of course, on too, is that the USDA is submitting this rule about how to quantify the carbon intensity of feedstocks for biofuels, and they're going to expand to not just be corn, soybeans, but be other crops like maybe winter canola or some of the camelina, pennycress type of stuff, and then expand some of the practices as well. And I think they're going to level the playing field a little bit. That right now, depending on the county that you're in, your score is different based on the county. And some counties really don't get a score at all because of how the GREET model works today. And I think they're going to level that out and kind of level the playing field that every farmer can participate and participate at different levels. So anyway, that's kind of the update. And what we're really hoping for Christmas here is that maybe the White House will get their review done of that rule by like Friday before they all break for Christmas. And maybe we'll have some nice long legal documentation that we get to read here over over Christmas break. But anyway, that's kind of the update, right? Is the USDA did submit some of their stuff like they said that they would. Now it's pending review at the White House. So Joe Biden is reading it right now.
So explain to me what that means, the USDA rule. Correct me if I'm wrong, does that mean that they're saying this is what we want to do, this is how we want to do it, this is when we want to do it by? And it's kind of
Yeah,
an outline that they would like to see the White House follow. Is that correct?
that's my understanding. So
Okay.
what happens, right, is the Congress passed the law in the Inflation Reduction Act. Now the executive branch has to interpret the law and write the rules. And ultimately, this is a tax credit. So the Department of Treasury has to write the final rule. But Department of Treasury, IRS, they don't know nothing about this stuff, right? They don't know nothing about ag and about low carbon biofuels and stuff. So instead, the USDA has gone to help them out, and USDA has been writing the rules and putting out at least their guidance or what they would do. And what they're telling me is that in the IRS, the Department of Treasury, they'll just say, "Hey, we agree with USDA. Let's go with their methodology." And the methodology meaning here are the practices that would qualify. Probably going to be, of course, it'll be cover crop and no-till, but it'll be nutrient stabilizers as well. Maybe other 4R nutrient management practices, good yields, maybe some biological type stuff or biochar, those kind of things might get pushed in there. But it's going to be a multitude of different practices. And I don't know if we might have talked about it a little bit before, Zach, when the 40B rules came out and they said you have to do cover crop, no-till, and stabilizers. Remember, it was like the practice bundles, and it would just disqualify like almost everybody, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
doing all three of those things in an all or nothing approach would be really tough for the mass majority. What they are telling me is that in this rule, they aren't going to bundle. Instead, USDA is going to say, here's a whole bunch of practices. And maybe in their rule or in the Department of Energy rule, they're going to say, here's the practice, here's the CI reduction, and here's how you can verify that it's legit. So I think they're going to give us some guidance about what data can the farmers bring to the table to prove that we did these practices. Shape files or receipts or photos or satellite imagery or whatever it's going to be. But that's really what we need to help farmers tell their story, I think. And yeah, hopefully the White House gets those rules put together, and they're telling me that it's going to be good for the farmers, and they know that if the 45Z rules get put out and they stink for the farmers, they'll write the rules on January 20th, and then Jan 21, Trump's just can come in and just scratch a line through the whole thing and it's gone, right? But they're telling me that they understand that, and they want to make the rules good enough that they don't just get put through the shredder, right away, but they can actually be good for farmers and help us tell our story.
Well, that was going to be my next question to you is what are you hearing as far as what the new administration coming in is thinking of this?
Yeah,
I mean, he's obviously got different ideas than what Biden's administration does. So
yeah.
what are you thinking?
There's kind of two trains of thought to it. One, he has said that he's just going to gut the entire Inflation Reduction Act. I don't think he's necessarily going to do that. I think they're going to go more surgically to gut it what they could do is probably one of two things. They could pause the entire Inflation Reduction Act and then reinstate certain components of it. And I think at that point, this one would make it back in. Or they'll just go surgically from the very beginning, cut, cut, keep, cut, cut, and I think 45Z would make the cut. And the reason being is that what's Trump said that he's wanted the whole time, right? Energy, 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 low cost, American produced energy, biofuels, and stimulating the economy as much as we can. And this is a tax credit that does stimulate these rural communities, a lot of Midwestern states that voted Trump, helping out farmers as well. That ag over the next couple of years, it's going to be pretty rough going, and at least in my opinion, with potential trade wars and tariffs and things like that, that in the short term hurt farmers. So having programs like this, I think, are something that Trump can keep in there to keep the farmers happy. But then, yeah, so how this tax credit works, right, is if the ethanol plant does pay federal income tax, they can utilize the tax credit directly. If they have extra credits or if they don't pay taxes, like a farmer-owned group, right, that's passed along to the shareholders, they can resell these tax credits in the secondary market to a different corporate buyer who then can utilize the tax credit to lower their tax liability and reinvest those dollars back into growing their business and hiring more people and stimulate the economy that way. So, and the credit has very good bipartisan support. So hopefully it'll stay through. A lot of conversations to be had, though, for sure. But the good thing about this, too, is it's not direct government spending, right? It's a tax credit. Of course, all government programs are roundabout paid for by the taxpayer. But in this one, the government won't write a ethanol plant a check. And there's
Okay.
no direct refund, right? Like another tax credits. If you have extra credits, right, you get a tax refund check. In this
Yep.
one, there's no refund checks. If you have extra credits, you got to go sell them in the secondary market, which goes for like an average of 90 to 92 cents on the dollar. But more tax credits in the market, more companies that can buy those tax credits, lower their tax liability, keep the money, and reinvest it to keep stimulating the economy that way. So hopefully that's the way it's going to go. But I don't know. What's your take on just, and obviously you're talking to tons of farmers and probably have your thumb on the pulse of just farmer sentiment in ag anyway. What's your take on farmer sentiment for this cropping year and outlook for the years to come?
I think overall it's a little bit down. I mean, people are looking at their cash flows and looking at the commodity prices and looking at all the input costs right now, and farmers are a little bit uncomfortable, that's for sure.
Yeah.
2024 was a tough year, ended up being a tough year. Like for us, we ended up with a better yield than we thought.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Like,
you how'd things turn out right in your area?
yeah, we were very close to average. We were slightly above on the corn and a little bit below on soybeans, which was all right. We were expecting to be below with both of them, so we'll take it. It wasn't a bad year. We had a ton of rain all summer, way too much for our area, which usually hurts our yields. So we were down some, but we ended up at average. So we're okay that way, but average doesn't do very well for the cash flow right now for most guys. So it's tough. It's not like guys are making a ton of money and looking to spend money at the end of the year here. And
Yeah.
you're hearing a lot from some of the major manufacturers about the sales being down, and yeah, it's not easy for people. Sentiment's definitely down a little bit. People are looking to make cuts in the areas that they can. I think overall, whatever your opinion might be of it, I think the election helped a little bit. I think guys have a little bit more of a positive outlook on that. But I
Yeah.
think most guys are probably like me also, where we're cautiously optimistic because we don't know what's going to happen with trade now and all of that. But overall, Trump has a pretty good record of wanting to do well for the farmers. And I know he messed with tariffs
Mm.
before, and it affected our market a little bit, but he did. We had payments that came along with that. And again, whatever your opinion is of that, Trump
Yeah.
does seem like he wants to keep the American farmers happy.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking here with the decision-making process this time, right? Is I think he would get a lot of backlash if he were to write the Trump bucks that we got last time, right? Especially with what he's doing with Musk and Vivek and those guys of cutting this government spending. So
Yeah.
instead of writing farmers a check, if we do end up getting hurt because of these tariffs, hey, instead, maybe here's this other policy that it would stimulate the ag economy from inside. That way, some of these external factors don't impact us as much. That's hopefully they kind of see that as the trade-off, right? But yeah, I think you're right? That overall farmers are like, okay, we do need to have some balance to this and hopefully Trump stuff is good. The biggest thing I think in my mind is the Tax Cut and Jobs Act that is up for renewal here in 2025. That's where stepped up basis is and death tax and some of these things. Like if that isn't done correctly, farmers are definitely in a world of hurt that way. But I know they're really pushing to get that bill back at the front of the table and make sure that that one gets taken care of. But yeah, I think you're right though, Zach. Like there's some farmers, right, that had amazing yields, some that was okay. And on our farm too, we had some of our fields that the best yield ever and other stuff where it's like, it's fine. I mean, it's average. But overall, it's like, all right, how do we control our costs and how do we capitalize here going forward and really tell our story, right? And I think that's the other piece I want to hit on for yours, right? That in your neck of the woods, we were talking before, doing some of these practices is tough. But even when we were running your score, you're still better than the default. We're better than what the government thinks that we are. And so as we think about agriculture being part of the solution long term or viable markets going long term, no matter who's in the White House, farmers are actually doing better than what we're given credit for. Part of that is precision ag, better nutrient management, better equipment, to be able to get the nutrients and stuff right where we need them and drive more resilient yield. And we're still doing better than what the government gives us credit for. And now we can just really tell that story for the first time.
Yeah,
But
I think there will be a lot to learn there as we go here with some of these big companies making a lot of big claims about being net zero by a certain time. Well, I think what the normal American doesn't understand is that in essence they're really just paying the farmer to do things differently. And that's okay, it's going to help implement some new practices as long as that really comes to fruition. It's going to help sort of fund the farmers to be able to do some of that and give us a lot of incentive to do that. So, it's difficult. I don't know that there will be a day that I'll see in my lifetime where things are no-till and cover crop in my area. I'm not sure about that, but
yeah,
I look forward to seeing what happens in the next few years here to try it and to watch other guys try it and to really see where that goes because there's going to be incentive to try and make it work.
yeah. But what I love about this too, though, Zach, is like even in your neck of the woods where these things are hard, your score's still better than what you're given, than what the government thinks that you are. And even in your area where you're not no-tilling and cover cropping, you still are helping to contribute to lowering the carbon intensity of that ethanol.
Sure.
Even in doing some of the conventional practices that you are, you still have an opportunity to help and contribute to this. Now, it's not a super low score, but in your neck of the woods, they don't give you a ton of credit for doing cover crops and no-till anyway because of being further north up there in Minnesota. But you do get credit for the better nutrient management practices, the improved yields that you've got, the nutrient stabilizers, those kind of things. So what I love is like in a lot of these carbon programs so far, it's been like check this box and or check this box, and that's it. Where with carbon intensity, it's a lot of different things that impact your score and gives farmers a lot more flexibility to do what's best for their farm and contribute at the level that they wish to contribute. But want to hear your take maybe on farmer data and farmers telling their story. Because now with government getting involved, I know I've definitely heard a lot of farmers kind of worried, right, about how much data is going to go to the government here. How is that going to be protected? And that's obviously where we're fitting in to try to help to protect that and only pass along a farmer's verified score rather than their data. But do you think some of the farmer storytelling and farmer contributing data sentiment has changed a little bit over the last couple of years too, or do you have a hot take on that?
I don't know that I have a hot take. I know personally I'm probably more concerned about it than I was 5 or 10 years ago. I do worry a little bit on what will be done with that data, but overall, you know, they've got so much data anyway. They really they have a pretty good handle on what we're doing out here already. that I think if it comes down to it and we can benefit through that tax credit, I don't think too many guys are going to hold back from that. I think it's something that is probably overall it's going to be good for the farmer. It's going to be good for the country as a whole, and maybe just getting your data out there and showing the practices that we're doing and having some of that out there will maybe take some pressure off us when people say, "Oh, they really are doing X, Y, and Z."
Yeah, that's my take, is that okay, even, so say instead of it being, hey, check this box and do this cover crop or check this box and do this no-till, now you've got a score where on a farm like yours can say, hey, okay, I'm not checking exactly those couple boxes that you're doing. I'm trying and like I've experimented with it and just have struggled with it. But hey, look at what we are doing. We're better than the 29 number that you think that we are today. Like, get off our backs and let us keep moving the needle utilizing more than just a small set of practices. And I think that's some of this clarity that we're going to get with this USDA rule, right? Is more practices, more things that can contribute to lowering your CI and not keep farmers in a tiny little box, but let us be more innovative. And what I keep saying is, show us the scoring system, teach us how to score points, and let us be innovative to figure out what's going to work best for each of our operations. And I think that's the path that we're on, which is really great and really exciting. And yeah, Joanne, thanks for putting some of the stuff in a couple of those links there about what went to the White House and stuff. Hopefully we get some clarity on exactly what is in their rules and move this thing forward and help farmers really tell this story. Because I think too, Zach, there's been, when we were doing the podcast stuff a couple years ago, a lot of these carbon programs were kind of rolling out, right? And it seemed like every time we record a podcast, there was a new company, right? A new program that was out there. Now that's kind of fizzled a little bit and kind of shifting over here, uh, shifting more in this direction towards a score and an outcome-based score versus like a 10-year carbon credit program.
Right, right. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, you're starting to really kind of see how this thing might take shape now. And it was so 5 years ago, it was just such the Wild West, nobody
Yeah.
really knew. There were big claims being made and big things being kicked around, but nobody had a grip at all on this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I've been trying to figure out and getting a grip on it over the last couple of years. And what's great now is like it's either going to happen by January 20th or it's not going to happen at least for a while, right? So like the clock is ticking and we're going to know here pretty dang soon. And I'm either going to be really happy or I'm going to be really sad, depending on how some of these rules come through. But it looks like it's going to be good. Okay, we're running out of time, and I got a whole bunch of questions that were in the chat as well, or came in on Slack. So sorry, everyone, on those. I'll get to more of those in future chit chats. But Christy does have a great question here. Advice for areas that don't have a lot of ethanol plants, and even Zach, in your neck of the woods, the ethanol plant's pretty far away, if I recall. It's still where you send a lot of the grain to, but there's only a couple ethanol plants even in your area too, but definitely in Michigan. So how can farmers participate if they don't necessarily sell it to the ethanol plant? One of the big things that I don't know if it's going to be in this USDA rule. I hope it is. It will be the guidance about is the tracking of the data going to be that the corn and the data go together, or are they going to be separated via a book and claim system where you can sell the corn to whoever you want to sell the corn to and sell the data via a book and claim, meaning any ethanol plant could buy your CI score. And what we're really pushing for, and I think the way it's trending, is that this will be done via a book and claim. Meaning, so Zach, you could have your CI certificates up on your farm, but you could sell the corn to any producer or to the local hog producers or whatever, grind your corn for feed, but sell the certificates separately via a book and claim market. So Christy, up in your neck of the woods, your producers could have, cover crops and their practices up in their farms, but, feed the grain or utilize the grain for whatever market they want and sell the data to any ethanol plant, which is really going to improve the transparency, better prices, and better equitable share for the farmer. So you're not constrained to only your local market, but you can sell the data kind of like a carbon credit. You could sell it to any ethanol plant, which would be freaking awesome.
Yeah, so does Continuum Ag have something, or will they have something like to be able to kind of be that broker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least kind of a little marketplace, right? We're not in a position to be able to facilitate all these deals and stuff, but we know we have to at least do some basic function of a marketplace. But we're partnering with some other groups as well, those acts to be able to trade these things. And actually, so far as like I could see a day where these CI certificates are actually kind of on like a board of trade in Chicago, and you could basically say, okay, hey, I want to adopt some of these practices, or here's the practices I'm going to be doing anyway. It's not about changing practices. So you could say, hey, I want some financing. I'll forward contract you my data, forward contract you my certificates, pay me a partial payment up front, and then pay me a follow-up payment when I finalize my data delivery. And actually, these certificates would be traded on a board of trade where farmers would be posting the certificates on the board of trade, investors could be buying them, batching them, generating the cash flow, and then the certificates could be utilized by an ethanol plant at the end of the year, which would be freaking awesome. So then also what that's really critical about is then anybody could buy these certificates as well, not just an ethanol plant. So as this program goes beyond a tax credit and beyond biofuels, the pork producers could buy it if they wanted to decarbonize the pork. Now they don't have tax credits to pay for it, but they could use this exact same concept and buy the certificates and attribute them to their scope 3 reductions, which is their supply chain carbon footprint. So yeah, we definitely know that we have to help farmers to sell these certificates and connect them into the marketplace, and a lot of stuff going on along those lines right now. It's been very exciting. I'm under some non-disclosures to not be able to share all the details yet, but yeah, some pretty cool stuff going on there. I think it boils back to what we started with, right? That if farmers are contributing and helping to decarbonize, they should get an equitable share for their effort. And by using a book and claim system, it really levels the playing field for anybody to be able to participate who's producing these grains for that could go to biofuel, and make sure that yeah, farmers get their fair share. And we're obviously going to be pushing to make sure that it's transparent and that farmers know what that data is worth.
That's pretty wild. There's a lot of stuff there that you just said that I didn't realize. So that's that. I mean, is this carbon intensity thing, in your opinion, granted, this is the space you're in, but is this going to completely shift our industry? I mean, we're talking
The
potential
ripple effect is
major changes.
100%. Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm so bullish on this, right? I'm in Washington County, Iowa, right? You've been down there. There's a hog building on every corner. My corn doesn't go to the ethanol plant. My corn goes to feed pigs. But if it's book and claim, my corn can still go to feed those pigs, but then my data goes somewhere else. Well, those pigs, most of them go to JBS. JBS needs to decarbonize, meaning they need to have their pork carbon footprint needs to be lower, and the corn is part of that equation. But if the data goes to somebody else's supply chain, now they can't count it towards their reduction. But if they could buy the certificates or keep the data in their supply chain, then they could prove that they are decarbonizing as well. And it opens up additional markets. Again, they don't have tax credits to pay for it. So their pricing structure might be a little bit different, but at least the precedent is there in regards to how to calculate the score, how to verify it, how to price it, how to trade it, how to track it through the supply chain. The precedent would be set by this government program that then all these companies that are trying to do carbon credit stuff, and they're kind of all, it's still most of the Wild West, right? Well, now you have some regulation coming into that space to kind of level it out and show these folks like, all right, here's how we're doing it at the government. They can copy and paste the rules and use it themselves.
So we got time for another question here?
We're technically over, but yeah, let's keep going.
All right. So I've
It's
been down in your area in
yeah,
Washington County several times, right?
yes,
There's a lot of producers that have been working on the kinds of things that are going to help your CI score for a long time.
yep,
5 years ago, people were really talking about how the carbon scores and all the carbon stuff was only going to benefit the people that haven't been doing these.
haven't been doing it. Yeah, yep.
So is this a way now? Let's say,
Everybody could
you're
participate.
selling your corn to the hog producers. This is a way for you to benefit as well, and not just somebody like me who isn't doing all these practices.
You got it. You got it. Yeah. So those programs, right? They've had to have additionality, right? Where you had to change practices. And farms like mine, we basically were disqualified. Well, now it's based on not your change of practice, but what was your actual impact that year, and it resets every year, right? Because that bushel, it takes in what was your fertilizer and your practices on that bushel. You sell the bushel one time, you sell the data one time, right? It
Yep.
levels the playing field. But yeah, like my CI score this year on our corn was a 2.3. My soybeans were a -9. Now, last year, our corn was a -4.1. We weren't as good as we were last year. Every year, it's going to be a little bit different. And it's based on the delta between the default score of 29 and the farmer score. So that's what I love about
Okay.
it. So, like, say next year you do have a couple fields where you strip till them or something like that, right? Your strip till fields might have a little bit lower score than your conventionally tilled fields. And but you don't have to do it on every single field. Each field can have its own score. You can choose the practices that are best for you. And yeah, every farmer can now participate. And farms like mine that have been doing it for a long time, we already have a really low score. Now we can be compensated for that, which I think is great. And Greg, to your question here on how did Continuum Ag acquire the ability to issue these CI credits and what other companies, organizations have the ability? There's no for being the people to issue the credits, there's no certification or anything like that. We do have an accredited third-party verifier, though, who does do all the audits and stuff. That's the critical thing. So any farmer, you could go do it yourself. So like Zach, you could pull together your data and score all yourself and then submit your data to a third-party auditor who does the audit and issues the certificate. Then you can go sell it by yourself. That's exactly how organics work, right? It's every farmer for themselves for the most part. But at Continuum, we just built the software that I needed for my own farm. We've just been aggressive at investing into this to help farmers to organize their data where they own it. And then we built an MRV protocol, which is the verification protocol with an accredited third-party verifier, who they then have the authority to actually say, this is legit. And we are just helping the farmers to manage their data and go get it sold. Anybody could go and do that. And there'll be multiple organizations that are pushing to go that route. I don't know of any of them that have developed an actual verification program that the farmers can go and get verified. I believe we're still the only ones doing that. If anyone knows different, I would love to compare notes and work together, because I think in order for this to scale, we're all going to need to be producing a product that's apples to apples, right? If it's the Continuum CI certificate and then the Millennial Farmer CI certificate and then whoever else's, and they're not apples to apples, well, this thing falls apart, and nobody knows what they're actually buying. So we all got to be kind of creating this certificate that's apples to apples in terms of the rigor behind it. Then, of course, everyone's score is going to be different, and that's what determines the financial value.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes
And
sense.
I think that's a great thing, though, just the way you guys are doing it to allow the farmers to hold on to their data, and the farmers can own their data like that, rather than being one of the companies that says, you give us your data, we'll figure out what to do with it, and then we'll decide this
How much
little
we're going to pay
premium we
you.
throw you, right?
That's the trade, right? And we charge farmers though for it. We're $7 an acre. Like it's not for free, because I've got to cover the expenses somehow, because we're not getting paid by an ethanol plant right now. Like, it's not happening. So it's the farmer that pays the couple dollars an acre, but the farmer owns their data, and you get to choose who you want to sell it to, and you're in control of what price you want to take. Now, right now, it's early, right? Like, nobody's making any money. I haven't made a nickel off of my carbon intensity score, but it's come some clarity here in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, those opportunities are going to open up, and I just think, Greg, that farmers should be able to make sure that they know what their score is and understand the ownership that you have to that data. And our approach is just that farmers should be in control, and we have to charge for it, but because we got expenses, we got to cover somehow. But the farmer owns it, and we want to help you to go and get as much of an ROI on it as we can, while at the same time understanding that it's got to be fair, it's got to be equitable. You're not gonna get 90% of the tax credit dollars going to the farmer. It's got to be some type of an equitable share. In my conversations with ethanol plants, likely somewhere around maybe a third or so to the farmer, half of the money at the most, but likely more like a third to 40%. And then the ethanol plant keeps some, and then there's a lot of cost in doing this too, so that's kind of the split. But but we're talking a much bigger pie that even splitting up the pieces of the pie, the farmer financial opportunity is way better than anything else that I've seen out on the market. And that's what makes us so excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this all goes.
It's gonna be fun. So yeah, Zach, let's kind of wrap up. It was awesome to have you on as our special 50th episode guest. I'm sure we'll maybe on the 100th or something like that. We'll do it again here sometime. Been awesome to to continue to monitor all your success as well. As kudos to you and Becky that of course actually runs the show.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I'm just the actor.
Yeah, that's right. You're just the guy that pretends to farm, right? And with the
That's right.
camera. Do you still get backlash for that? That you're just a YouTube guy. You're not even a real farmer.
Yeah, but it's gotten a lot easier to ignore.
Okay, that's good. You've gotten what? You've gotten more rigid in your elder years or what?
More calloused, yeah. See,
There you
the
go. More
best thing you can
calloused.
do
I
is
like
just play into it and just say, "Yeah, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
This is a movie set.
It's
Like
actually a set. Yeah.
the
It's
tractors are
all just green
props,
screen. Yeah. It's all green screen.
all green screen." Yeah, that's right.
That's hilarious. Yeah, man. All right, good stuff. For everyone, have a Merry Christmas here too as we go into the holidays. Be watching. There might be a need for an emergency press conference if we do get some rules coming out, but we will share more as we get into the new year. It's been awesome to hang out with everyone. We do this every Tuesday, and more chit chats to come in 2025. So, Zach, appreciate the time on your side too, and we'll talk to everyone here later on. And Zach, Merry Christmas to you and your family here as well.
Yeah, same to you, Mitchell, and everybody else that's on right now watching this. And thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun. Been good to catch up and find out what's really going on there. So thanks
Been
for having me
awesome.
on.
You bet. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.